Prime Resurgence is a place for new players to get older items, but what can those items exactly do? Today we're looking at the man that finishes it all himself, Ash Prime. We're starting just with his passive. Slash attacks deal more damage and they have 50% increased duration. You mainly use it when you use Ash as a weapon platform. We'll talk about why we're not really using it when rebuilding for weapons, because that's what we're going to talk about today. First ability, Shuriken deals slash damage with the Augmented and Armor Strip. Very low strength, but also very low target amount. Disabilities, whatever. I also will explain later why we actually will not need Armor Strip on Ash. Second ability, Smokescreen, just invisible. Survivability. This ability on its own doesn't do very much, but there is some synergies in there that we will talk about. And we have Teleport. Teleport just exists. It can do a funny thing with his 4, where you can join the Shadow Clones if you cast it on an enemy that is targeted by the Shadow Clones. Speaking of Shadow Clones, Bladestorm, you spawn in the clones, they deal finishers, and it costs energy. The energy cost is halved. As you can see, if you're invisible, a Smokescreen. Important thing to note, damage here says slash damage, which is not entirely true. We'll talk about that with the Exalted, which honestly, let's look at that first, because the Exalted will make a lot of things make sense. Exalted Bladestorm. Crit chance is 5% though. It's awful. Crit chance is awful, which is also why we will be looking at only one subsume and one subsume only. It's your friendly neighborhood Raffle Advance. It's just the easiest choice. That's just how it is. With 5% crit chance, I can quickly show you. If we would use the regular build, you still have no crit chance. This is not worth it. But yeah, back to the base stats. The range 50 meters. This is target range, by the way. So the amount of range you have on the 4 when targeting it, and then that's all you need for the Shadow Clones to reach that. That is the 50 meters. Attack speed is 1. We can actually increase this, which is the speed of the Shadow Clones attacking. 1.2 critical multiplier. Status chance 5%. Also freaking awful. As you can see, it only shows finisher damage here. There's no slash damage. Over here it's showing slash damage. The slash damage from the ability is the damage over time you get after a finisher. But there's a few things I want to talk about this weapon. We've just looked at the stats. Next up is its damage type. This weapon is classed as a dagger, which means we can use dagger mods, look, very specifically daggers, which gives us finisher damage. The other important thing is it only does a finish. This is the reason we don't need armor strip from his first ability, which is why it's normally the subsume slot as well, because finisher damage actually deal true damage, so they ignore armor. They don't ignore shields, they ignore armor, which means armor strip not necessarily, because it gets fully ignored by this whole ability already. This is also why we are not building for the DOTs, why I'm saying the passive is kind of whatever, because those slash takes, sure they exist, but because we're dealing true damage already, we are gonna try and deal as much damage as possible so the DOTs are not needed to kill. Back to Ash, we've just looked at the Exalted weapon. I am actually just gonna show you my build and show you why it is the way it is, because we just explained everything, so hopefully you have a basic understanding of what this guy does. Now we're gonna look at the mods and why I use the ones I use. Starting off with the aura Steel Charge. There's not much in the aura that is actually helping. Yes, this is diminishing returns because we're using Prime Pressure Point, but this is probably the best we can do unless you want growing power for a tiny bit more crit chance. Personal preference. In my opinion, Steel Charge does slightly more damage, but the difference is so minimal when you're dealing hundreds of millions. Pick what you like, or pick whatever slot you have. I omniform all my primes. PSF, because PSF I don't want to fall over. Then you can see we have a lot of strength in here. All this strength is to skill not Bladestorm, not Teleport, not Smokescreen, all because of Raffle Advance. This is how we are gonna crit. Only this ability. Because as you saw, the 5% base crit chance, even with Blood Rush, barely reaches 30. So we are gonna bank on Raffle Advance to give us crit chance. Also, while Bladestorm is active and the clones are attacking enemies, you can cast Raffle Advance mid-animation, and the next enemy that's gonna get attacked already gets the crit chance buff. So it's very easy to keep it up. If you lose it for 2 enemies, that's fine. You can just recast it while your Bladestorm is still active and it will instantly apply again. So Raffle is just a perfect fit for Ash and it will make him able to crit. Then next up, we have Prime Flow. Just need more energy, which actually goes to 427 energy. And because we are critting, we also want crit damage. So I have an extra energy shard here. That is why my energy is 502. And when you're looking at your own build, you need this shard to actually reach that. Next up, Equilibrium, just easy energy gain. I prefer this mod as my way of energy sustain, because all my companions always use Synth Deconstruct. This one only needs to injure enemies to drop health orbs, which helps you a lot in level cap, because Duplex needs to kill enemies, which is basically not possible when you're fighting level 9000 unless you have a cracked up companion that you're specifically buffing. So Symphony Construct combined with Equilibrium is my way of energy sustain. Next up, I have Archon Continuity. Not really a reason for why this is Archon. I will mod my Exalted for Toxin, you will see why. So it is technically also armor stripping, but you will have no status chance. I just like the red mod. Just use Prime Continuity, it saves you a mod capacity. And then to round up our survivability, combined with Smokescreen, in case you're getting nullified, in case you're getting status, toxin, slashed, something that is taken away at you while you're invis or you just got some stray bullets. I just have rolling guard there, which makes it easy to recast Smokescreen. Just kind of all the survivability you need. Smokescreen, rolling guard together, invis and status cleansing, and you're done. Next up, Mold Augmented. Like I said, I want more strength. More strength is more crits. With Raffle Advance, you will go to 481 with Mold Augmented already. Then we have Arcane Crepuscular for also more strength and crit damage, which means this is getting double the effect of his kit, because with Smokescreen we get 30% strength, which translates to 30% crit chance, which means we are bypassing the 400 barrier after Augmented as well, because this together is 90, so we will reach 411 crit chance. And then we also get 3x final crit damage multiplier, which we desperately need because this crit damage is kinda low. 1.2 at base, so that final 3x from Crepuscular helped a lot. Also, you can see now my shards, more crit damage. That's why I have this energy shard here, because you need the 500 max energy. These are all 75% melee critical damage. Let's now look at this Exalted. As we just said, it is finish damage. I also just showed you we're getting all the crit chance from Raffle Advance. Besides that, we're ignoring it. So we have Galvanized Steel for critical damage here. Yes, it gives crit chance, but it's the only mod that gives 120% critical damage. It's actually the highest critical damage mod in the game. So that's what we're using it for right here. And then we have Organ Shatter, more critical damage. I have Primed Pressure Point for base damage. You can use Condition Overload. You can either use both, because at some point it kind of stopped working, especially if you don't like using your Smite mod. I only use Ash in Cascade. I kind of use him for easy level caps, which means I'm fighting Organ because a corrupted enemy from a fissure is classed as Organ. That's why this is here. It's just a nice final damage multiplier. Then right here I have Prime Fury. You can use base Fury, which is barely not enough to cap out your attack speed, but it actually applies to clones. Max attack speed is 1.5, which is why I use Prime Fury, because it's 1.55. That last 0.05 that I'm losing here, it's worth the format. You can also use Berserker Fury, which is 70%, but I like Prime Fury because it's more consistent and it's already a cap. Berserker Fury gives you 70%, but that's way overcapping. So I prefer this because then it's always active from the first clone onwards, instead of needing to wait kills for the attack speed to be applied. Then, two very interesting mods. Finishes have their own multiplier. Finish the damage is actually a different multiplier. Also, these two don't have diminishing returns. This will straight up be 160% finisher bonus. So using both mods is actually worth it on this one. It does not work the same as normal melee damage. Keep that in mind. Having both is actually the best benefit you can have. We don't have status chance, but Prime Fever Strike is our highest status damage mod, and status damage does get applied in the finisher calculation. 108 total, 40 total, 67,000 toxin is being added. So yes, this is actually worth it. And then, most importantly, we have an arcane. Finishers use combo in their damage calculation. So getting your initial combo up with melee crescendo. First of all, it's kind of the only arcane that applies. Melee, you could use Kareen nowadays. Afflictions doesn't really work. Dottie doesn't really work because there's no puncture. Maybe exposure could work for more damage, but I can tell you that the more damage from exposure is not gonna compare to the 12x combo that you can get from melee crescendo. This is by far the best in slot. If you're using a Raffle Advance, that is. Melee crescendo, just use it. It gets 6 initial combo per kill on max rank. You need 240. It's 20 per initial combo round. So it's gonna take a few kills, but if you're doing a long run mission, use this. If you're doing Ash for short missions, let's say you're farming the Rebellion right now, maybe exposure is worth it because you're not gonna stack up that many kills. As soon as you're going to do some endgame content, some level caps or EDA, ETA, please try Crescendo because it scales your damage from a different scalar than the rest, which means it all multiplies each other and it will have more effect in the end. After that, weapons doesn't really matter. Focus cool doesn't really matter because you're using initial combo. Using the combo decay von Neramon does not matter. You don't lose initial combo until you die, which is also why melee crescendo is so good for long missions, because you will keep that 12x forever. Quick warning about that: once you reach 12x, the bar will stop showing in the middle of your screen. The E did that to prevent a bit of screen clutter. Don't think you've lost your combo. when you hit 12x, it will actually get out of your screen and you keep the 12x. Now we've talked about almost everything for Ash. Quick recap, we use Raffle for crit, we use Smokescreen for invis, we use Blazestorm to kill with finisher damage. All these buffs will just stay active. He is really easy to play. To me, his kit makes sense. I hope it's the same for you. I hope after this explanation it is the same for you. To me, his kit just kind of fits into place, nice synergy. So this is my Ash. I hope this helps you. If you want to finish someone, hit damage cap, this guy is it. I'll try and find a clip of me in a cascade, a little showcase with a lot of damage capping, easy kills, and just staying invis and chilling out. I hope you enjoyed this. This is Ash Prime. Get it from the Resurgence if this is something you like, if this is a playstyle you like. And I will see you all next time. And take care. Bye bye.